Hello everyone, how are you all doing? Welcome to Hero Villains, where we explore the dark side of superheroes in comics. Superman has faced some of the most dangerous foes from the supernatural world, including vampires. Everyone knows that Kryptonite is a deadly poison to Superman and is often considered his only weakness, but the truth is more complex. Kryptonite isn't the only thing that can harm the seemingly invincible Man of Steel. But magic and supernatural forces can also bring Superman to his knees, making him as weak as a mere mortal. This includes immortal creatures like vampires who have clashed with the Last Son of Krypton multiple times. As the radioactive dust from the Kryptonian cloud spreads across the sky, the planet is engulfed in deadly green light. Superman's power diminishes to the point where he is no longer himself. But before he realizes it, all that remains is the horror awaiting him. Doom is approaching and Clark Kent is no longer the great hero he once was. Rough, stone-like patches begin to grow from his face and body. In a furious roar, Superman, now a dark version of himself, emerges. But before we dive into the analysis, please hit the subscribe button. It helps us a lot. Thank you very much. And remember to enable notifications by clicking on the bell icon. And in Superman's shattered and sickened mind, two entities are fiercely battling for control of his body. He convulses and roars, completely overtaken by the doomsday disease. The deadly green clouds continue to spread worldwide as Kryptonite disperses into the air, worsening his condition. In desperation, Wonder Woman seeks help from an old friend. 9 years later, Superman's new battle with the undead bloodsuckers erupts again. But this time, the enemy isn't just any strange creatures, it's the real Dracula standing against the Man of Steel. A seance brought both Frankenstein's monster and Dracula into the DC universe, and only Superman is strong enough to face them. After defeating the monster, he realizes that the fight with Dracula will be much tougher. Superman cannot return safely to Earth, and perhaps only one final dance remains between him and his foe. The Gardener and Supergirl, with eyes burning with anger, stare at Superman as he turns to face them. Doomsday has returned and taken full control just as the Red Lanterns dive down to attack him. In a moment of authority, Superman quickly creates a miniature sun by pumping pure hydrogen into a toy ball and melting it with the intense heat of his heat vision. So the blinding light and searing heat push Dracula back, but his enemy is not easily defeated. However, in what seemed like an inescapable situation, a boring deus ex machina, with its sudden and mysterious appearance, swiftly dealt with both the monster and Dracula within the comic panel. It was such a dull and bland ending that it's hard to imagine anyone being satisfied. The next time Superman got involved with vampires was after Crisis on Infinite Earths. In the first Action Comics annual, Superman and Batman teamed up to investigate a series of mysterious murders in a small town. During that investigation, a vampire wearing Daisy Dukes and a Mr. Peanut t-shirt made Superman realize that magic could indeed hurt him. Only 5 years later, Superman faced his most dangerous vampire enemy. When Jimmy Olsen discovered that Lucy Lane, Lois Lane's sister and Jimmy's girlfriend, had been bitten by a vampire, he did the worst thing of the 90s. He donned a kickin' bandana, armed himself with as many pouches as possible, and carried a large, comical cross. Superman's blood pressure is likely much higher than that of an ordinary human. His heart must be incredibly strong to withstand the extreme demands of his superhuman feats. A gush of blood from his artery would be like a powerful water cannon capable of cutting through any obstacle. That is no simple matter. Facing danger, Superman is forced to find a way to overcome it, but the vampire's magic turns the fight into an uneven battle, where even the Man of Steel must falter. Fortunately, Jimmy's instincts led him to a horrifying truth, and his goofy appearance suddenly made sense. A doctor named Ruthven had been secretly draining blood from Lucy's neck over several nights. Perhaps this is the character from the 1819 short story The Vampire, one of the first vampire tales written in English. Ruthven wasn't just a vampire, he was a shapeshifter, transforming from the appearance of a normal person with a mullet to a terrifying form resembling Bela Lugosi or Count Orlok from Nosferatu. Lucy's blood was drained and somehow stored for later testing for compatibility. But for Superman, his blood couldn't match any human blood type, causing doctors to fear using this strange blood on humans in case it might kill them. However, there are stories that Clark somehow fathered a child with Lois, suggesting a strange supercompatibility in his bloodline. Perhaps in a rare circumstance, a recipient of Superman's blood might temporarily gain some superpowers, but the much greater risk is that they might face death, as that power does not belong to the human world. During the scuffle, Jimmy accidentally drove a stake through Tim's shoulder. He's really not a fighter, and that act only further highlighted his clumsiness. On top of that, Ruthven used modern technology to avoid traditional vampire weaknesses, rendering Jimmy's arsenal of weapons useless. Even when Superman threw Ruthven into sunlight at the end of the battle, the creature wasn't destroyed. A week later, Ruthven returned, and this time the Man of Steel was completely overpowered by him and his minions. Just as Lucy Lane was about to bite Superman to turn him into a vampire, he was unexpectedly saved by an unlikely ally. Blaze, a demon from hell who frequently appeared in Metropolis, released a ghostly light that distracted Ruthven, causing him to accidentally impale himself on a war memorial. Blaze didn't want Superman's pure soul to be corrupted by Ruthven, so the demon intervened to save him. It's ironic that Superman's savior was a demon. However, all of this is just fantasy because aside from vampires and werewolves, a bite cannot change DNA. If Superman were bitten by a radioactive spider, he would likely just get a bump at the bite site. Nothing more. For a regular person like Peter Parker, a bite from a radioactive spider would lead to illness or cancer, not superpowers. Babe Tanaka, Jimmy's close friend, was turned into a vampire by Ruthven in this dark story and eventually became just a minor character in later Superman stories. At one point, the vampire within her nearly took over Babe completely, but with the tireless support of Jimmy, Superman, and a mysterious man named Locke, she bravely fought back the darkness. After the chaotic battle with Ruthven and Babe, it seems that vampires have kept a safe distance from Superman, but everything changed when Clark, Lois, and Jimmy set foot in Eastern Europe, where they accidentally wandered into the castle of Lord Romanoff. The atmosphere quickly grew tense as they realized that Romanoff was not an ordinary nobleman. His attempts to bite Lois, who was almost unclothed, and drinking blood from a bottle were clear signs. Romanoff then hypnotized Superman, and in a horrifying moment, he moved in to bite the skin of the Kryptonian. But this time, the vampire's fangs pierced Superman's skin, and Dracula had to face the terrifying truth that sunlight, the source of Superman's power, is the death of vampires. The sunlight-charged blood destroyed the undead creature that had lived for centuries in an instant. Just 2 years later, another vampire dared to test his luck by attempting similar bold actions. During a Justice League investigation, Superman discovered a group of people living and hiding under the domination of a creature calling itself Crucifer. It turned out that Crucifer was an ancient vampire leading a notorious group of vampires known as the 10th Circle. Please subscribe to our channel. It helps us a lot and you'll get to watch amazing videos every day. You are the best! Thank you so much. Like Dracula before him, Crucifer also tried to manipulate Superman's mind through hypnosis, hoping to drink his blood. But as soon as Superman's blood touched his tongue, Crucifer was immediately disgusted by the strange taste of this liquid. The blood of an alien was not something that the undead could sustain themselves on. However, to ensure absolute safety, Crucifer came up with bizarre speculations. Imagine if a spider from Krypton had accidentally bitten Kal-El while he was still in the biological matrix of his spacecraft before being sent to Earth. And suppose these spiders injected a strange virus into his DNA, performing unprecedented recombination activities. Nevertheless, the undead lord's tasting of Superman's blood did not equate to a death sentence. This perhaps stemmed from the difference in the group's approach compared to what had happened in Superman 180. In any case, although Superman's blood was undrinkable, sucking it allowed Crucifer to seize control of the Man of Steel. Now, Crucifer possessed a Kryptonian bodyguard ready to carry out any command he issued. Imagine if Superman really possessed powers like Superboy, what abilities a DC hero might have. Forget spider sense because that's just fiction. He could shoot webbing with unimaginable strength, as strong as his steel-like body. He could also develop the ability to inject or shoot deadly venom. If he injected it, the venom would have a terrifying acidity. If he shot it, it would cause immediate paralysis. And when the venom was injected, Superman could even vomit out a highly potent acid, granting him unimaginable destructive power. Finally, he would develop tactile adhesion abilities, an amazing yet haunting skill. Superman eventually broke free from the control of the vampires after several events and personally ended his former master Crucifer by driving a cross through his chest. This was the first time Superman had killed a vampire by himself without the help of Phantom Stranger, Blaze, or any stroke of luck. This marked a significant turning point as Superman once again took on the role of directly confronting vampire forces. In a title filled with illusions, Superman and Batman battled vampires and werewolves in the miniseries Superman and Batman vs. Vampires and werewolves. While this title was quite specific, it still wasn't enough to describe the entire battle as other superhero allies joined in. They not only faced vampires and werewolves, but also had to contend with a mad scientist and Lovecraftian monsters from Cthulhu's world. However, the title Superman, Batman, Green Arrow, the Demon, and Man-Bat vs. Vampires, werewolves, Cthulhu monsters. And a mad scientist probably wouldn't have been very fitting. A battle not just for justice, but also against dark forces from hell. In any situation, a mad scientist unleashed Cthulhu demons and other evil beings upon Gotham City. And our heroes had to join forces to fend off this evil wave. Among the innocent people threatened was a boy named Chad, whom Superman believed he had saved. But sadly, the second time they met, Chad had transformed into a vampire. Despite Superman's best efforts to protect Chad, he couldn't prevent the tragedy. In desperation to reverse Chad's transformation, the boy was taken to a nearby hospital. But the extreme fear caused Chad to lose control, and in a panic, he threw himself out a window in broad daylight. Chad's death was almost instantaneous, leaving Superman with indescribable pain. That tragic death became the source of Superman's fury. Kryptonian physiology gives Superman immunity to many forms of harm, including diseases and toxins. However, if he became a vampire, that could alter his powers significantly. While he might retain some abilities like superhuman strength and flight, these powers could be weakened or transformed due to his new vampire nature. As a vampire, Superman might inherit the traditional traits of this species, such as fear of sunlight, bloodlust, and possibly immortality. Sensitivity to sunlight would become a significant challenge for Superman, as sunlight usually proves fatal to vampires. This could force him to avoid the daytime, reducing his ability to fulfill his heroic duties. The unrelenting bloodlust and the agony of facing sunlight would push Superman into a fierce internal struggle. Superman's relationships with other heroes and characters in the DC universe would change drastically. Allies might become wary of him, and villains might exploit his condition. His status as a protector could be threatened. As far as I know, he's never been transformed. The 52 Superman was once bitten by Cheetah and turned into a cheetah-werewolf hybrid because her bite had magic, so it wouldn't be too far-fetched to assume the same could happen from a vampire's bite, which is also a magical disease. Unless your name is Jeff Loeb and you have to make up some nonsense like sunlight in his blood, this guy tried to turn Supes into a vampire but was disgusted by his alien blood, and Superman is immune to all diseases. What do you think? We'd love to know your opinions. Thank you for watching. That's the video for today. We'll stop here. Thank you very much.